Revenge films.
Recently, my wife would come home late saying she was hanging out with her female friends. My wife was not the type to interact with others often, but I thought that socializing could help relieve her stress, so I accepted her. She ended up coming home late again, saying that her friend needed someone to talk to about childcare. She came home at around 11 in the night, but I greeted her as usual at the door. When I said, "I bet her friend is struggling," my wife replied in a bitter smile.
Her son in middle school is acting rebellious, and he's giving her endless troubles.
"Well, we've been through that period too," I said, and she headed to the bathroom to take a shower. Then I remembered that I used up all the shampoo, so I opened the bathroom door to give her the refill pack. Then I was taken by surprise. In front of me, I found my wife's body covered in hickeys, and on her flashy lingerie she brought to the bathroom, sperm was smeared on them. I guessed that she was planning to wash them in the bathroom. I got confused about what I just saw, but I quickly figured out that she had been cheating on me. I immediately threw the refill pack at her body and waited for her to finish taking a bath. Until she came out of the bathroom, I took out her phone from her bag and sent the proof I found to my phone before she can delete it. In her phone, there was more than enough evidence. Well, I found a lot of photos and videos of her doing this and that, and I felt really nauseous for a moment. I just felt really surprised, more than sad or mad at that moment. Even after I downloaded all of the evidence, she didn't come out no matter how long I waited. I thought she was trying to come up with excuses, knowing that she would be questioned as soon as she comes out. So I decided to approach her first, told her goodbye through the bathroom door, and left the house. For a month, I stayed at cheap business hotels, one after another, and had my lawyer prepare the necessary documents for my divorce and content certification. I honestly didn't feel like going home to where my wife would be. My wife called me so many times, but I ignored all of them. We had 2 children, and they both were full-grown adults with jobs, so they seemed disgusted to hear about their mother's affair. Once I was done preparing, I met up with my wife and her lover a few times for a discussion. But her lover was a single, middle-aged man, and when they were next to each other, they only looked like a melancholic, middle-aged couple. I got upset that my wife cheated on me with this kind of guy. It turns out that my wife met him through a website and quickly proceeded to having a sexual relationship with him. My wife was always a housewife since we got married and had no hobbies or any experience in dating. Her parents had already passed away and her visuals were ordinary, but she had a great body. Her personality was quiet and she might look like the type to be shy in the night, but once we get our hands on it, she's a beast with a whole different personality. Considering her personality, it was unexpected, but she seemed to love it. So she told me that she only met him just to fulfill her sexual desires. During the 6 months she spent with him, she slept with him so many times and learned different techniques, so she started hanging out at places where those types of people would go to often. Of course, those people had an addiction to something. Despite the situation, my wife initiated it, and we'd do it once every week. I visited the hospital just to make sure I didn't have STDs, but I was safe, so I was relieved. But it turns out the guy had STDs, and shortly after we found out that my wife was also infected. We'll be strangers to each other now, so even if she had STDs, it was none of my business. After that, I filed a divorce mercilessly and demanded the guy pay me compensation and lawyer fees. I had downloaded enough evidence from her phone, so we had more than enough. First of all, despite the dangers of me finding out, I was wondering why she would have those kinds of photos in her phone. But I got nauseous again when I found out her fetish. She begged for mercy, saying there was no romantic feelings between them, but if this happened while we were newlyweds, I might have been furious. My love for her, who had done something so stupid even after our children grew up to be adults, had long gone, and I didn't care about her at all. While we were discussing our case, she would cry, apologizing and feeling guilty, and asked repeatedly if we can start over without having a divorce. But my wife was actually living with the other guy. A few days after I left our house, I changed the key for our house when I was sure that my wife wasn't home, so she was no longer able to get in. She had nowhere to go, so she moved into his room with nothing more than the clothes she was wearing. After that, the guy would complain to me, saying, "Don't let your wife move in with me." But I ignored him. Who does he think he is when he was the one who destroyed our family? He really seemed to be hoping for a solely sexual relationship with her and had no intention of stealing her from me, but how can I accept something so selfish? According to my wife, she was just living with him and never slept with him, but just because she didn't have any money or a place to live, I couldn't believe how her brain decided to move in with the guy. Even after she was locked out of our house, she called and texted me to apologize every day. But I obviously didn't reply. The guy also seemed like he would never pay me any compensation money because he was broke. But he worked at a small funeral company owned by an old couple and their son. And when my lawyer reported to his company and asked to have his salary seized, the owner agreed with a simple, "Okay." The guy confidently thought he wouldn't have to pay if he told us that it was impossible to pay because he was broke. So he got really devastated when he got to know about the seizure. And he said, "This is unfair! There's no way this is possible!" But it's my right protected under the law, man. First of all, who's the unfair one here when he meddled with my wife and never took responsibility for his actions? When we also told his parents about what happened, they went pale. And after apologizing for destroying my household, "I'm very sorry on behalf of my stupid son. I'll make sure to have him compensate you." Then they gave me $2 million as compensation. I assumed that his parents would also be horrible because he was an absolute nightmare. But after talking with them, I found out they had common sense, so I actually started feeling sorry towards them. After our divorce, my ex-wife decided to marry him, but it's none of my business. Considering what kind of guy he is, it's a waste of time thinking about it or getting mad at it. I'm planning to sell the house next week. I told my children about where I'll be moving to, but I didn't tell my ex-wife. My children also plan not to meet their mother ever again. And considering how her parents had passed away and how she never really interacted with her relatives, she'll have no choice but to depend on her husband for everything. I guess that was one of the reasons why she got married to him. I heard that his parents instantly broke relations with him after that. He had a little brother, and his parents arranged that he would be the only one to inherit from them, including their life insurance. So he's been complaining about it to everyone around him. He really deserves it. Since then, I've been living alone, but my children, who are already grown-ups, would worry about me. And my daughter sometimes brought me her cooking, while my son visited me often just to have a chat, so I'm not lonely at all. If we didn't have children, I might have felt very lonely, so I'm really thankful for them. I do hear about my wife sometimes, but I heard that her life with her new husband was more than awful. Well, he's just an ordinary middle-aged man, and we seized his salary, so he doesn't get paid much. Up until now, they could have just enjoyed their sexual relationship, but now she has to look after him until their death, and she'll also have to join him in his grave. So I heard she's been asking the people around her whether they know where I live or how she can get in touch with me. But it looks like everyone knows that she deserves what she got, so no one takes her seriously.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.